Super Bowl champions here in Miami.
You gotta fight and play it right to Lombardi.
All right, so it was a couple of years ago, but why not change it up here on a Feel Good Friday? Yeah, but you always play that Feel Good Friday montage, you know, with Johnny Paycheck and Sammy Hagar. Get on the phone, tell all your friends. How come you're not doing it this morning? Because I don't always like the... People say, well, how come you do it that way? Number one excuse given for a lot of things, especially if you're an old white dude like me.
Well, that's how we've always done it.
Because we've always done it that way. Doing it differently this morning. Good morning to you. Welcome into a Feel Good Friday here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I'm Branden Rathert. That's producer Hannah. There's John Marsh. Brian Houseworth. He's here. What are we? A little over 48 hours away from the Super Bowl. Chiefs and Eagles. And how about Patrick Mahomes winning the MVP? How many times has somebody won the MVP and then gone on to win the Super Bowl in that same year? And when was the last time it happened? But first, Patrick Mahomes.
I would never be standing here today without y'all. Every day, giving everything that we have together to go for the ultimate goal, the Super Bowl. Let's continue to go for that dream this weekend.
How cool is that? I want to tell you, to me, in my mind, besides the gaudy statistics that Patrick Mahomes puts up and all the wins and all that, what I think makes him special. But first, I want to say, so bridges are up this morning. Parental Bill of Rights in Jefferson City. That's moving forward. Sunny later today, high of 42. Nothing out of the ordinary for the weather over the weekend. Any big stories that's going to impact us, Mr. Houseworth? Lindley Rennick, that's a big story. You're covering that. That's not impacting us. Anything impacting us today that we need to know about? Mike Pence. I'll cover this in the Daily DC Rundown, 625. He's been subpoenaed to testify against his former boss. Anything else big before we move forward?
I just think the Jesse Williams thing, we need to get an update on that, why he does not have an attorney. The man has had 3 months to have an attorney, and he doesn't have one yet.
Jesse Williams is the guy
bridge murder incident.
Pushed somebody off the Columbia Bridge in Columbia. Mr. Marsh, in your mind, big story or two today that's impactful before we get into the real impactful stuff like the Super Bowl?
Morgan County R2 School District in Versailles will join the 4-day school week club next year.
I love that. As a matter of fact, and I was fortunate for several years when I was a ski guide. I get to have a 4-day work week, and it was beautiful, and I loved it. There's a little 6-year-old kid named Brody. Brody, he is 6. He's all on board with a 4-day school week.
I'm Brody, and this is for the government, and I'm protesting. And I want 3 days off of school. I've been tired of school lately, and I've been dreaming for 3 days off. 2 days is not enough. I need 3 days off. I need time to just play and stay home and do whatever I want outside.
Amen, Brody.
His little accent makes that so much better.
I feel your pain.
In one thing, especially for our audience in Jefferson City, especially for the news reporters who are listening to us, and I know you do as well. We do. They do listen. Yeah. A lot of Democrats keep saying the Republicans pushed a 4-day school week. Let's not forget, John, it was a Democratic governor named Jay Nixon that signed that bill into law in 2016. It was a Republican bill. Bill Reibold sponsored it from Neosho. But it was Jay Nixon that signed that legislation into law. Now, there are efforts to repeal it. And if you remember, when they predicted that, even the supporters and opponents thought it would just be a handful of rural school districts.
Yeah, I remember that.
Independence is going that way. Arnold Fox is I mean, you're talking about
25% of Missouri schools are now going to 4-day weeks.
That's huge. That is huge. And the number just continues to go up.
I'm in favor of it, but I don't have kids. I'm not a parent of school-age kids here in Missouri. I don't know what kind of, how big it's, and I don't know. I would guess it'd probably be 50-50 of people that have been doing it now. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing 50% of the parents would say, love it. The other 50% say it's been a major pain in the rear ends.
And John and Brian can correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the reason they're doing it, A, is to save money, But B, it's a big incentive to get new teachers, right?
That's absolutely correct. And if you talk to the school districts, they say that is a big issue for the staff as well. Monday is generally the day that they would use as extracurriculars, but it's popular. But again, there are people who don't like it, including Mr. McGraw, the Jefferson City superintendent. He makes it clear he doesn't like it, but it does. Versailles, that's a big one.
And see, here's the thing that blows me away. So, like, when I was in high school at Center for Management, Law, and Public Policy in downtown St. Louis, I did the 4-day school week. Anyway, it wasn't. I was the
wasn't
only
quite approved by his counselor, but that's how he worked it.
Wasn't approved. It was not part of the St. Louis Public, but that's what little Rathert did. I'm going to mention this real quick. 874-9390 text. That's how you're going to hit us up this morning. One of our texters says apparently there are police. This is in the Columbia area, 63 south of Bass Pro Shops. Apparently a person down on the side of the road. We'll find out what's going on there and see how that is going to impact you. Patrick Mahomes. Here's what I appreciate about Patrick Mahomes. It's not the gaudy stats. It's not all the wins. It's not the Chiefs going to their third Super Bowl in 4 years, even though we do appreciate that stuff. Here's what I really appreciate about Patrick Mahomes. And yes, he's polite, seems to stay out of trouble. His wife, Brittany, might cause more trouble.
His brother.
I was going to say his brother's the main culprit.
Yeah.
Which his brother and his wife have both been very quiet this season. So I wonder if they kind of maybe got threatened.
Got to
Paid him off.
Yeah. Brittany also had a baby, though, so maybe she's kind of on maternity leave from shenanigans. I don't know.
Parenthood will change you. But here's why I think Patrick Mahomes is so special. Because it is about the team. He structured, and I know you say it's a $500 million contract, but one of the things he did, the money aside, he structured it for the team. You know, it's about the team. It's about we got to win. And it's funny because they've had to, like, whenever Tyreek Hill left, they kind of had to adjust how they did their offense a little bit because they lost a very valuable weapon. Well, guess what? They're back in the Super Bowl. And Patrick kind of had to adjust to that. You know, maybe he didn't air it. I didn't see the big bombs like that we used to see, but he doesn't care because it's about the team winning. And that, I think, is incredible appreciation for that because I think about, like, where you work. You think about some of your coworkers, and I don't know, maybe it's a different situation, but you think about the people around you, whether it's at work or in life, the team that's around you, and I liken that to us, and I don't want to get all cheesy here because I'll get teared up and stuff, but I think about the team that's here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, Stephanie Bell back on Monday, and I think about, everybody here on the team and what everybody contributes. One of the things I appreciate about Patrick Mahomes, who wins the NFL MVP, last player. You know how many times in the history that somebody has won the NFL MVP, and then in that same year they happen to be in the Super Bowl, then has gone on to win the Super Bowl?
I know the guy who did it the last time.
10 people have done it, won the NFL MVP, and then gone on to win the Super Bowl. Last guy to do it, John?
Kurt Warner.
Yeah. Can you believe that was 23 years ago?
1999.
1999 season, 2000 Super Bowl, and probably at least top 3 epic play. To give you an idea of how long ago that was, as I look at my dear sweet Hannah. Hannah wasn't even here yet.
I was cooking. I was in the womb.
She was cooking. They were stirring up the ingredients to make producer Hannah. That's how long ago that was. It was Kurt Warner, and of course the Super Bowl, probably one of the John. Where that play at the end of the game? The guy who and is it Mike Jones ended up coaching football at Lincoln University? Was that his name?
Yeah. The shoestring tackle guy.
The tackled Tennessee Titans would have very likely tied the game, could have potentially won that game. And Mike Jones in that tackle, as time ran out, the dude was that Dyson stretching for the end zone. What an incredible play. But that was the last time that somebody won the Super Bowl after being named the MVP of the NFL 23 years ago.
And now Patrick Mahomes is getting, the MVP NFL Super Bowl jinx, the jinx. And say, well, we've got it kind of works the other way because the last guy to be able to do it was from a Missouri team, so that should translate to the other side of the state.
I like your math this morning, Marsh. Pretty crafty, man. I like the spin on it.
See what the line is in Vegas on that one, huh?
So we got a text from a listener real quick. Potential traffic issue. Columbia area. Somebody says there's police on 63 south of Bass Pro Shops. Apparently somebody down on the side of the road.
Yeah, I don't know about the person down on the side of the road, but I did talk to Joint Communications just a few moments ago. We can tell you that it is a police incident is how it's being referred to right now. Southbound Highway 63 south of Vandiver. In fact, the authorities are using the term traffic hazard right now. So basically, they're not able to tell me much about what the police incident is. It's down to one lane, but the biggest thing the authorities are urging folks, Brandon, is avoid that area. What they're telling people to do is get off at the connector. So this is southbound 63 south of Vandiver. So you're right, it would be near the Bass Pro, and I believe there's a country like a men's shop in that area, maybe a Menards, but right in that area, it's a police incident. It is down to one lane. They're telling people to divert, if at all possible, get off in another location. And again, as far as the police incident, we're probably not going to get much on that until after it, whatever it is. But that's what it is right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian Houseworth. 874-9390. What are you feeling good about, Sandy? Text us this morning. I feel good for my husband and my family. Feel Good Friday. We'll try to celebrate some of the cool things happening in the news. By the way, Marsh and I hanging out. Where can folks find us tomorrow, John?
We're going to be at Jefferson City's American Legion with the Navy Club Ship 5 fundraiser chili cook-off for Camp Quality at the lake.
And one of the judges, Cole County Sheriff Mr. Wheeler. So come look for us tomorrow. And so tonight, by the way, if you're a lawmaker in Jeff City or an official, please, I'll be statewide Lincoln Days in Springfield tonight. I'll look for you there, and then I'll look for you tomorrow. We'll be at this chili cook-off tomorrow morning. Favorite play of the year? John, do you have one in mind? Obviously, great year for the Chiefs, but if you look at one moment or two, is there something you go, yeah, that was it for me? Yeah, that moment.
Not specific plays, but I think when we came back even early in the season, like you said earlier, no Tyreek Hill, and the receiving core is way down, and then Patrick Mahomes steps up, throws his patented sidearm to folks, and just keeps racking up the touchdowns.
How about that? One of my favorite, and it was towards the end of the year.
Look at this.
I've never seen that before in my life.
That was, what did we call it? The ring around the posy play. That's where the Chiefs, before they hiked the ball, they got into a circle and kind of danced around the ring around the posy play. Love it.
Look like something from Saturday Night Fever.
Coming up, 625, Daily DC Rundown. What was in that spy balloon? We have new information this morning, and
think that answer by the president completely discounts the message that the rest of the world got, was that America is either incapable or unwilling to defend its own airspace against a balloon.
Congressman Michael Waltz, Republican congressman from Florida. So we're learning. Before we get into today's daily DC rundown here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, I want to mention, you know what, John, you remember the song Coward of the County. It's a legendary title. Kenny Rogers, Coward of the County.
Sure.
Yeah. That's what this reminds me of. Like Joe Biden, and by virtue thereof on a worldwide stage, we are cowards. And Joe needs to do what that dude did in the Kenny Rogers song. He needs to do something, and he ain't doing it. The China balloon. Now this is some new info this morning. We knew this already, but now it's being confirmed because the administration has to. That balloon that was shot down by the U.S. after, and I have to say this because the Associated Press won't tell you this, that Chinese balloon that was shot down after it went through, what did it go through? Like 48, 49 states in America, military installations over nuclear facilities, including here in Missouri. Then they shot it down. The Associated Press won't tell you that. That Chinese balloon shot down was equipped to detect and collect intelligence signals as part of a huge military-linked aerial surveillance program targeting more than 40 countries. By the way, one of the things that helped them, American U-2 spy planes. John, I knew you'd get a kick out of that.
How about that?
My mom used to work on those U-2 spy planes. A fleet of balloons operates under the direction of China. It's used specifically for spying. It is outfitted with high-tech equipment and all that stuff. And by the way, there's a writer for the Post-Dispatch who got it wrong, talking about one of our local state senators as it relates to Chinese and farmland. Ownership of farmland here in Missouri. And this columnist for the Post-Dispatch completely gets it wrong. And there's some impactful stuff there. We are going to cover that at 6:35. By the way, apparently within hours after downing the balloon, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, he picked up his cell phone. I don't know if it was in a conference room they were putting on speakerphone, but apparently there's a special crisis line. I'm not kidding. A special crisis line, like you dial this line for a quick, like, direct access, general-to-general talks. China. Apparently he called, I don't know if it's an 800 number or what it is.
Bat phone.
Yeah, the bat phone. He picked up the bat phone, and he calls the bat cave that is China. China didn't answer the phone. That's how much...
Caller ID.
Oh, crap. It's Austin from America. What does he want?
I'm not answering. You answer. I'm not answering.
You answer. It's your turn. That's how much China turns its nose at us, and the rest of the world is absolutely watching. By the way, former VP Mike Pence subpoenaed by a special counsel overseeing investigations regarding the 2020 election. Coming up 6:35, celebrating more great moments from the Chiefs this year.
China even need to send this balloon in the first place? They're already spying on us with TikTok. Is it possible that the Chinese spies became the first people ever to get sick of TikTok? Were they like, I swear to God, if I see one more basic make lasagna in a slow cooker?
Chelsea Handler. Next week on a Chinese spy balloon. Hey, just so you know,
I feel attacked.
Do you? And you know what's funny? Because here I was gonna say this. But when we talk about TikTok and how China uses it to spy on us and how these state legislatures are wanting to, Josh Hawley, our U.S. Senator, thinks we should outlaw it. I don't agree with that. But if state legislatures saying on state devices we don't want this, I'm good with that. I was going to say I'm not attacking fans of TikTok. I'm not. And I get maybe sometimes there's that perception. So I just mostly maybe you and I should have the conversation off air. I'm kidding. That is producer Hannah.
Good morning.
There's John Marsh.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. Brian Houseworth is here. Steph Bell back on Monday, just a little over 48 hours from the Super Bowl. Mahomes, NFL's MVP. I also thought this was interesting. The NFL got the properly earned nickname for a while, the No Fun League, NFL, because for a while the end zone celebrations, they would get out of hand. And you love it when it's your guy scoring and they're doing the fancy end zone celebration. Well, there was a time when some people said, well, act like you've been there before. Be a gentleman. And it's sports. It's sports. Don't tell these guys to be a gentleman after they've been crushing each other's skulls for 60 minutes. Don't talk to me about being a gentleman and decorum and stuff like that. They swat each other on the rear end after a good play. Decorum doesn't count. So whenever somebody from the opposing team would do this big old end zone celebration, and we saw Terrell Owens, I think, it wasn't the end zone celebration. Remember the midfield celebration years ago, Marsh?
Yeah.
He was back in Dallas and took the ball, the 50-yard line. Crazy stuff. Last night, they gave out. So now the NFL, I didn't know this until last night as I'm watching Mahomes get the NFL's MVP award. They hand out awards for like best end zone celebration now. You talk about the NFL not backtracking. It's an evolution.
They circled back.
They
evolved.
Yeah, they didn't change their minds. They got new information. And they came up like this guy.
When I argued that we should freeze federal spending, I meant Social Security as well.
That was Biden years ago.
Wah, wah.
The other night, he's got new info. He's evolved. The NFL evolving. And Bengals win for end zone celebration. It was the defense, and I don't even know how to explain what it is they did, but they made a big play on defense. They may have even scored on a touchdown against the Baltimore Ravens, and the entire defense gets together in the end zone, and they raise their hand. It was cool. I just thought it was interesting that now they award end zone celebrations. There was a time when we didn't.
No, they should penalize them for them.
Oh yeah, excessive
celebrating.
Excessive celebration. You're having too much fun, dang it! I'm throwing a flag. You're not allowed to have fun. You're flagged. One more thing on China before we get out of here. Kurt Erickson, he writes for the Post-Dispatch. He's been covering state politics for a lot of years. But I just want to mention this for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's kind. He mentions a local state senator, Caleb Rowden. But the reason I mention this Kurt Erickson guy for a couple of reasons. Number one, and it's not just about Kurt, but it's about people that read headlines and they take that as fact. And Kurt Erickson completely has it wrong here when he says, what's gotten Missouri GOP moving on foreign land ownership? The spy balloon. And the reason I thought this was interesting, because that is not accurate, in my opinion. And then the other thing he does is he quotes State Senator Caleb Rowden. When we're talking about cracking down on foreign ownership of Missouri farmland, which, by the way, the Republican-controlled House and Senate voted in 2013, 10 years ago, to allow a Chinese-owned company, Smithfield Foods, to legally own farmland in the state. And this was for hog farming operations. And I don't know, maybe they didn't have the foresight to see, this might, 10 years down the road, and this has been an issue prior to the balloon, despite what Mr. Erickson would have you believe. But he quotes Caleb Rowden. It wasn't a direct response to the balloon. And then he does go on to say, quoting Mr. Rowden again, I think that did thrust it back into the front of the spotlights. Just as a whole, it's a misleading headline. Here's why I get so about it is because there's a lot of people, they read the headline, and even once in a while, as big as I am on this stuff, there are still some times I get duped by a headline. I try not to. I think I'm pretty good about it, but that's the thing that frustrates me. You know, we can talk about a biased news outlets, whether it's local, and we see it locally, of course. We see it nationally. But people take these things at face value, or they read the headline and they go on and then they go and they tell their friends at work, hey, I read this article in the Post-Dispatch, and they just recite the headline without getting into the facts, and it is kind of bothersome. So some of the big stories so statewide, parental bill of rights, that's moving forward. And I want to, when we do winners and losers of the week at 8:35, I might even mention people like former state rep Chuck Basie and John Potter, and Chuck Basie in his role as a lawmaker, and John Potter, who's just a truck driving parent who, during the government pandemic that started in 2020, started to realize some of the things that were happening with his kids at school, specifically in the Columbia Public School District. And that's just an example because that's where the guy lives. But we saw it nationwide when these kids were forced by the government. Pandemic didn't force kids to stay at home. It was the government. The pandemic did not close. COVID did not close businesses specifically in Columbia, incidentally. Government officials, including former Mayor Brian Treese, who allowed this stuff to happen. I look forward to chatting with him at the First Responders event next Thursday night. We won't talk about this.
Let's keep it on topic.
Yeah, keep it on. Sorry. Thank you. As a matter of fact, Caleb Rowden is going to be one of the folks at that First Responders event Thursday night. You can check out.
Lieutenant Governor has a table, too.
Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe has a table. Dr. Moon Choi is going to be there. FirstResponders.org. You can still get a table. This is celebrating law enforcement, first responders, EMTs, and it helps folks here in mid-Missouri. And kind of what this first responder services, what they do, there are some things that when you're a first responder, you can't always necessarily go to HR and say, hey, I've got this issue. You will very likely lose your job. And that's just one of the things First Responder Services is doing, helping folks. Where was I?
Right here.
Thank you. It's a big help job.
I do what I can.
Forgot where I was going. So big stories in Missouri this morning. Parental Bill of Rights, that's moving forward. But 8:35, we do winners and losers of the week every Feel Good Friday. John Potter, he's a parent, as parents did nationwide. They saw what was happening in public schools and said, I need to get involved. And this John Potter guy, humble truck driver, couple of kids in school, and he will tell you, not the most vocal person, not the most gifted speaker. I've seen him speak where he has, and I'm not saying this as a criticism, it's quite the opposite. I've seen him give presentations where he's fumbling through his notes and nervously reading what he says. But you know why it matters? Because it's his kids. And I think it's people like him that here a couple of years later, 3 years after the government pandemic, we're seeing changes. We're seeing changes being affected on a statewide level because of people like John Potter and because of people like former state representative Chuck Basie. We talk about getting involved, and when these things happen, we're not talking about this stuff just to complain about things. We talk about this stuff to say, see, change is being affected. There are some things that are happening. How goes the wedding planning, Hannah? The reason I'm asking, John, we got a pretty cool guest coming up at 7:35 this morning here on a Feel Good Friday.
Yeah, we've got our buddy Steve Howser from U.S. Renset in Jefferson City, who's had a long couple of weeks trying to get things back on an even keel after that fire a couple of Mondays ago. So he's going to come on and give us an update on what's happening at U.S. Renset.
In the story, I think the real story, I mean, that's cool, but how the community in mid-Missouri came together, specifically people in Jefferson City that came together and helped them out. It's that spirit. And yeah, I know I'm being cheesy. I will own it. But it's cool because it's good things, people doing good things. getting involved with somebody. By the way, the stuff they do at U.S. Rents and how they have helped the community in the past, and then the community comes back to help them. I think the Beatles said it best years ago, the love that you get is equal to the love that you give. So he's going to be here 7:35. And I just wanted to ask him for a couple minutes, like, hey, man, how cool is this? Hannah's first question for the guy.
Hey, do you have the lighted marquee letters I'm looking for my reception?
That's her first question.
I'm betting hook you up.
By the way, and I was thinking about this, whenever there's a wedding shower, why is, and I'm assuming that you're going to do one, why is it that only chicks go to these things? Is it because dudes aren't invited, or and by the way, I better quit complaining, because I wouldn't be happy if I were invited to these things, actually.
So I was actually just talking to my family about this last week, and couples showers are kind of becoming a thing now, instead of bridal showers, and just kind of, co-ed a little bit. But yeah, I was wondering the same thing. Why, when it comes to a wedding shower, or even a baby shower, I was at a baby shower a couple weeks ago, and the dad wasn't there. And I've always thought that was weird, that, the other half of the couple, whether it be a baby shower or a wedding shower, wasn't there.
Because guys go to bachelor parties.
And we don't invite women. Well, we do invite women, but just not the
guest of honor.
Yikes!
Why is that? Is a great question. Why?
That's a good question.
Why? How come only women go to baby showers when the dude, he's got something to do with it too? And then the bridal showers. Why is just women?
Well, some people are surprised that my fiance really wants to be at the wedding shower, and we've talked about how it's kind of a no-brainer. Everyone's there to celebrate the couple, not just the bride.
Right. And what's the reaction that you get from the family when you say, yeah, my fiance Branden wants to be there?
I mean, my family's like, okay, no big deal. But other people that I've talked to are like,
better
really?
Get more food.
Like, really? He wants to hang out with a bunch of girls?
Yeah.
I mean, we could also invite dudes to the shower. Like, in my mind, it doesn't have to just be a bunch of women, but...
874-9390. Why is that? That it's typically just women that go to wedding showers. But guys, be careful what we're asking for here this morning.
Good point.
Because we don't want to start getting invited to that stuff. Feel Good Friday. What are you grateful for? Any reason why it's just women that go to the wedding
rampant crime, and the police won't enforce the law, and the prosecutors won't prosecute the criminals, people have to defend themselves. So then what? That same government then criminalizes self-defense and throws you in jail.
Amen. Mark McCloskey, former U.S. Senate candidate for the state of Missouri, and, of course, the famous/infamous incident when BLM got onto his property and he did nothing except practice his Second Amendment right, just showed a gun, and people lost their flipping lids on Tucker Carlson last night, talking about people defending themselves, Second Amendment rights, especially against a tyrannical government. I wish stories like this would get more coverage. There are stories that happen all the time. People able to thwart crimes because they arm themselves. Check this out. Houston Hotel. And I'll play the audio here real quick. It's closed circuit television security footage, so the audio's not the best. But some dude walks into a motel, of all places, and goes to rob them. And he got surprised because guess what the clerk there at the hotel had? They had their own gun. She pulls a gun on the dude. Flees, doesn't get any money. But what do you say if you're the robber and you're going to rob someplace and you've got a mask on your face and you got your hoodie up on over your head and you got gloves on so nobody can see the color of your skin and you're walking in to rob this place and somebody pulls a gun on you? How do you react?
That is! I promise!
I know not the best audio in the world, but as he leaves, did you catch what he said there, Hannah?
I think I might have.
He says, I ain't playing with you. And he hops back up over the counter.
Abort mission.
Abort mission. And if you get a chance, this is one of the reasons I wish we were on TV. We are on YouTube, wakeupmidmissouri.com. But if you get a chance, go and check out the video.
Not .com.
Wake Up Mid-Missouri on YouTube and on our social medias or media that we...
Killing it.
That we
Mediums.
Gold star.
On a roll on a feel-good Friday.
What a promotion.
I'm a fan of what Versailles is doing, 4-day school week. And apparently this is my, yesterday was it for me. Yesterday was my 4th day.
Yeah, what are you doing here today?
Right? Fox is going to be doing something really cool during the Super Bowl on Sunday. So the Super Bowl is happening on Fox TV, and there's actually very little relation between Fox and the Fox News channel, but they're going to be airing some commercials, and I think this is important.
Gutfeld, new king of late night commercial, ready to roll.
Isn't this great?
Is this cultural appropriation?
Action.
Hello, America.
That's a wrap.
What?
Sorry, these ads are pricey.
So that is a commercial for Gutfeld, who is becoming seriously the king of late night TV. And by the way, when he said, you heard the line in there, is this cultural appropriation? It's because somebody is wearing a suit of armor, as knights used to do. And so the joke, oh, you're appropriating the culture from 16th century? But anyhow, Fox is going to air during the Super Bowl. You'll see this Sunday while the Chiefs are beating the Eagles, a commercial for Gutfeld's late night TV show, which has beaten. He is beating Colbert. He has beaten on several occasions. He has beat Kimmel and Fallon. Now, he does have an earlier time slot, half hour earlier that comes on. The bigger story with that is that he's on a cable channel. He is beating those guys, and I love that they're going to be airing commercials in the Super Bowl. You're going to have 100 million people watching the Super Bowl. They're going to be advertisements. Say, hey, tune into Fox TV. Watch Greg Gutfeld's humorous take on news late at night. And I think that is important because we're going to have more of these younger people that maybe tune in and they go, oh, so this is how it works. This is why Biden and progressives are a bad thing.
what is happening.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
They have done it. Chiefs are Super Bowl champions here in Miami.
You gotta fight. You gotta play your right to Lombardi.
Okay, so it was several years ago, but why not? It was a Monday morning after the Chiefs beat San Francisco 49ers several years ago. Let's hope coming up Monday morning at 7:08 at this very time, Monday morning when we all meet back here, we're talking about another Chiefs Super Bowl victory. Patrick Mahomes, by the way, wins the NFL's MVP award. John, you remember who is the last, and it doesn't happen very often, incidentally, that a player gets named the NFL's MVP and then days later they play in the Super Bowl? I think it's happened 10 times in history that the NFL MVP has won.
The guy we point to, Kurt Warner, the Rams in the 1999 season.
It was 23 years ago, 1999 season, 2000. He was named MVP, and then they played the Tennessee Titans in the Super Bowl, and it one of the greatest. The whole game was good, by the way. Probably, I got to say, top 3 Super Bowl plays of all time. Mike Jones' shoestring tackle of Antonio Dyson as he was getting ready to score. And of course, Mike Jones going on to coach at Lincoln University here in mid-Missouri.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and he was, by the way, he was a really good dude. Patrick Mahomes, your favorite thing? Besides the gaudy stats, Marsh, your favorite thing about Mahomes?
His haircut.
Yeah. I'll never forget asking Brad Trinago several years ago. He came in, I think it was end of season. He came, and I don't know if he started or went in for Alex Smith. I don't remember the circumstances, but they were interviewing him after the game, and I remember asking, who's this guy with this froggy voice? I regret that I ever even asked that question. What about you, Houseworth? Favorite thing about Patrick?
When I did school boards for Texas Tech, when he was at Texas Tech University in Lubbock, he put up numbers nobody knows about because the defense was so bad in that era. He would have won probably 2 Heismans in that era. Nobody could throw the ball better than him. The arm strength. People don't realize how strong his arm strength is and the ability of him to run in circles. 3 or 4 guys can get him and he just can elude them. It's just amazing. And I hope he stays healthy. That's the big thing. One hit that's what I worry about. It could be any part but the leg. That's what I worry about.
He says his leg is going to be fine for Sunday, but still. And Hannah, didn't you have an injury when you were playing sport? That's comparable to what Mahomes had.
Yeah, I had a high ankle sprain, and I had some torn ligaments go on with that.
How long do you recall? How long before it was normal?
So it was 4 to 6 weeks in a boot, I think, on crutches, and then I did physical therapy, and then it didn't heal right, so I had to do surgery a year later and start the process all over again.
Big stories happening this morning nationwide. Mike Pence's been subpoenaed. I don't know if that's a big thing, but he's been subpoenaed to testify regarding the 2020 election and President Trump's handling at the times. All the bridges are up this morning. We are going to see some sunshine later today, high of 42. Right now it's 32, and I think right now Parental Bill of Rights in Jefferson City is moving forward. One of the other things that's happening, and I think this is kind of interesting. As a matter of fact, a headline in a local news outlet, and I think it's from KOMU, but it's something regarding Board of Curators, Mizzou, meeting, and I think the headline is something like enrollment cliff. In other words, they're looking at the demographics of America, and they're saying, hey, there's fewer and fewer high school-age kids. What are we going to do about recruitment at Mizzou? This is Choi, Dr. Moon Choi, head of the UM system president, yesterday in that meeting.
We're going to hit our peak of high school graduates around 2026, so we're preparing for that shift in the demographics. We have to continue to demonstrate that we provide, the 4 universities provide a high quality, affordable education so that students can be successful after they graduate.
So affordable. So, and I get they're looking at demos. Hey, there's fewer and fewer kids coming out of high school. And not only that, I think the real truth of the matter, and this is no knock on Mizzou, it's technical schools, and more people going, I don't have to go to college.
Yeah, the relative thing is all. I mean, the affordable thing is relative, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. And here's the other thing: the affordable thing and the cost of going to college and university is just, it's gone up significantly since I certainly was in school. The bigger thing is that a lot of people that are in their 20s or 30s, as I see it, are perfectly willing to, even if they are married or living with someone, they're not having kids. And that was not I mean, in the 1970s, when I was growing up, many of the families had 3, 4, 5 children. So the demographics he's referring to absolutely has to do with that. However, I did read the full curator report, and the number of admissions has gone up. There's some positive numbers in there as well, but he's looking ahead. I certainly understand that, but you just don't see. I see a lot of people, even that are married, that never go and have children.
Yeah, and that's just kind of how. And so now we're starting to see how everything changes eventually. That's the only thing that's constant. If you want something that's constant and steady, it's change. Change is the only thing that's constant. It seems, and I don't know the numbers, but it seems like they're constantly raising tuition, and probably not just Mizzou. I'm guessing schools nationwide. But when I get confused when people sit around and scratch their heads, well, why is enrollment down? Why is this happening? Well, the cost of going to a 4-year university. Let's look at that. It's money. It's like when people say, hey, what's a good incentive for you to work here? It's money. It's money.
You got to be able to. You got to be able to pay for it.
What's your other incentive if we were to hire you and we're luring you with it's money? Okay. Well, what's your third? Money. It's money. It's money. It's the same thing. I think when it comes to going to college, lower the cost. Lower the cost. You'll get more kids to come to your school.
Well, you're talking $100,000 now to send a kid live on campus to go to Mizzou.
And I can tell you, in 1989, I'm showing my age here, and this was a big deal at Lindenwood College, which is now Lindenwood University. Dan McLaughlin was 3 years behind me. We talked about that at the time. But the college tuition was $7,000 per year. People thought that was outrageous. $28,000 for 4 years. But again, that tells you about the inflation. I'm not sure there's an industry anywhere that has seen that kind of an increase outside of colleges and universities. And it's not just Mizzou. It's Lindenwood. It's every university. They're all dealing with this.
Hannah, what's your number? Your number for the cost of your college education.
A lot.
Roughly. A lot, yeah. And it's, man. But when they say, well, how do we lower the prices? Before we move forward, I do want to mention this really quick. Monday night, there's a group of us having dinner at CC City Broiler, no matter where you are in mid-Missouri. And I mean this because when I came back to Missouri 7 years ago, people said CC City Broiler, one of the best steakhouses you'll ever eat at. And I get all high and mighty. I've eaten at steakhouses from Montana to Idaho, buffalo steaks in places like Wyoming to Florida and all that stuff. I've had good steak. I know what. Wow, it really is a good place. Anyhow, Monday, Ashley Emmel, who owns Compass Chiropractic and hangs out with us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri from time to time, me, her, Marsh, Howser, Congressman Billy Long going in for dinner. And as we're sitting there, Dr. Moon Choi happens to come into CC's and, hey, you say, how's it going? And we're talking. Very affable guy, by the way. Super affable guy. And then Eli Drinkwitz comes in. And so I start, hey, Coach, what's going on? And we sit there right at the entrance. We're actually backing up the line into CC's and start. And as I'm chatting with Eli, it occurs to me, and I haven't shared this reaction with anybody else in the show, I did kind of think, this is odd. The system president and the coach of the Mizzou football team is here in a private set.
I thought it was neat because when Coach Drink walked in, he walked up to us and said hi and looked over at Dr. Choi and said, hi, boss.
Well, and the other thing that was funny, and it could be just my perception. My perception was that they're there, and it could be nothing. Maybe they're just having dinner. Maybe it's something they do every Monday. I don't know. I sense that they were kind of surprised to see 3 members from the media there. But that's just my take. I'm probably wrong.
And a congressman, too, former congressman.
What was your take?
My take was, I've seen Coach Drinkwitz and talked to him at a donut shop here in town, and he's very private, obviously, and with his family especially. But they were it was not a private dining room. They were right in the middle of a dining room there. I took it that they were seemed to be having a good time. Obviously, I could, but again, it is possible, and I'm speculating here, that the annual report for the Board of Curators was going to be delivered, and football was mentioned. Maybe they were talking about that. I mean, and it wasn't anything negative. It was actually really positive. But it seemed to me they were laughing over there. They seemed to be having a good time. I think it's good that your system president and football coach are out having a chance to talk. So I thought it was, and they were talking to, obviously fans were coming over there to talk to him as well.
And maybe that's just my suspicious mind. You know what? Now, as I say it out loud, maybe they thought the same thing about us. Why are 2 news directors and a talk show host in mid-Missouri here with a congressman meeting in the back room?
we had no other room. And of course, the congressman was here to do Wake Up Mid-Missouri. So, Brandon, very, very quickly, I know we've had a couple calls about it. 2 very quick things. Whatever this police incident is on 63 in Vandiver, I just got off the phone with Joint Communications. It has been cleared up. I did reach out to Jeremiah Hunter. He didn't have any information, so I don't know if someone was hit by a car. We've had callers say there was somebody down on the ground, but there's no more police there, so the highway is back open. And one other quick note here that I'm sure you're going to hear more about. Andrew Bailey is launching an investigation into the Pediatric Transgender Center at St. Louis Children's Hospital. That will be something, and there's apparently an alleged whistleblower. That'll be something I expect we'll get a lot of news. No ties to Columbia or mid-Missouri, but it's still getting a ton of attention.
One of the other things, and we appreciate your text regarding traffic, 874-9390, and that is in the 573 area code. It's always cool to hear from people that are listening furthest away, by the way, from mid-Missouri. We had somebody text us from Honduras this week. They're there on vacationing, listening to the apps, the KWOS and the 93.9, the Eagle app. Thought that was really cool. The other thing we're getting on text, so Hannah is in the process of planning her wedding. She's going to be married like 8 months from now, and one of the things that came up was wedding showers, and we're wondering, why is it only chicks go to wedding showers and baby showers? How come dudes don't go to baby showers, and how come we don't go to wedding showers? And we've been getting some really good responses via text at 874-9390.
Well, at the very least, why doesn't the groom typically go to the shower, and why doesn't the father of the baby go to the baby shower?
Yeah.
At the very least.
Great questions. One of the responses we got, and I love this, and this is, I guess, bridal showers used to be the opportunity for grown married women to teach and fill in the new bride on how to be a good wife.
Oh, no.
To, quote unquote, tell the secrets. That is why men typically have not been invited to bridal showers. And the bachelor party was the same thing for men. They went to...
That went downhill fast.
Yeah. So, and maybe that's accurate. Bridal showers. Now, here's how you be a good wife.
I could see it, unfortunately.
What's striking your fancy?
Well, so we've got David texting us, and he actually said the new thing for baby showers, it's called a daddy diaper day. It's separate from the baby shower where the guys all get together. And David says it's just another day invented so someone can get more gifts.
And beer. Coming up, we're going to do what I can see a daddy diaper event. Where are you going to drink beer?
And then you have Darren. He just texted and said, as guys, we don't care about that crap.
Coming up, we're going to do What's Hot with Hannah. Oh, coming up, a couple of things I want to tell you about. A very cool story that's happened in mid-Missouri here over the past couple of weeks. Community coming together to help out somebody who has been involved in the community for a long time. We'll give you that story at 7:35. Cousin Andy from our sports station here in the building comes in, joins us from time to time here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Cousin Andy's been collecting some pretty interesting stories from the Super Bowl. He is here at 8:10. We're getting ready for What's Hot with Hannah at 7:25-ish. What do you have for us, Hannah?
We're going overseas for a Valentine's Day reaction.
All right, Valentine's Day. Coming up Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:27.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
Can't blame that one on a guest today, can ya?
Nope.
So, Valentine's Day is coming up. In case, especially the male audience listening right now, didn't know. I know we're all very excited for the Super Bowl Sunday. But just remember, Valentine's Day is just a couple days away. It's on Tuesday.
Don't forget, ladies, make sure you get your husband, your significant other, make sure you get him something really nice. We don't want this to escape your attention.
Right. You could be in the doghouse. But there's a country overseas that's trying to combat Valentine's Day, and it's India. And, of course, the major religion in India is Hinduism. And so they have decided to name February 14th Hug a Cow Day in the country of India because they want to combat the capitalistic Valentine's Day, and they want to make it more of a religious holiday in India.
We did that at Cece's the other night.
We did hug some.
Oh, no.
8:35, I'm picking you for winner of the week, Marsh.
But yeah, in Hinduism, cows are holy. Yeah. They don't eat beef. And this is, I guess, the Indian government's way of just trying to combat the Western capitalism of Valentine's Day. Go hug a cow day.
They're on to something about the capitalistic aspect of it. Everybody we feel guilted. I got to do something for Valentine's Day. I got to do. And maybe it's just it's a good excuse to, hey, here's what we might politely suggest you do once a week anyway. Take some time for yourselves or whatever. I got married the second time I got married on a Valentine's Day.
Oh, boy.
2004 or 5. I don't remember when it was.
I think the people who get the crankiest about Valentine's Day are single people.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what? Talking about India says go hug a cow for Valentine's Day. Last time I hugged a cow, I think I got pink eye as a kid.
Oh, delicious.
And are you being serious?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm always serious.
I don't know whether that's a joke or not.
John would never pull our leg.
Coming up a few minutes from now, there's something really cool. And I'll tell you this story about getting married on Valentine's Day. Maybe not all it's cracked up to be.
Obviously.
Also, something recently happened here.
We will devise metrics to help us articulate the metrics by which we will then measure our success in real time.
I don't understand that, but made us laugh this week, and I think it's cool on a Feel Good Friday. That's Kamala Harris. And she did it again yesterday. She's talking about because they want you. They are going to force you to buy electric, and any chance they get to hype this stuff. And by the way, I'm not a fan of these electric vehicles. I don't lie. I'm not a fan of the fact that the government wants you. They're going to make you. They're going to twist your arm. They're going to incentivize people. Well, you're not going to do. Listen, these people that do, the progressives say, these people that do what we want them to do, we're giving them money in the way of tax breaks when you buy the things that we want you to buy. It's complete and utter BS. So she's hyping electric vehicles.
I had the opportunity to take a look at one of the buses that is being built in this factory. It is a model of American innovation. No exhaust, no diesel smell. The bus has Wi-Fi and even USB outlets next to every seat. I mean, come on, imagine. You can charge your phone on your way home from work. That's good stuff.
I don't think she got the reaction that she was hoping for as somebody who is speaking from experience on a regular basis. I do stuff, and I don't get the reaction that I thought I was going to get.
Especially back in the day when you were doing stand-up comedy, right?
Oh, my gosh. And listen, I've had this feeling before.
That's good stuff.
Crickets.
Oh.
Yeah, I've had that more than once. That's why I don't do it anymore. But when Stephanie Bell is back here on Monday, so she's talking, my God, can you believe there's a USB port on an electric bus? Can you believe you can get Wi-Fi? Ask Stephanie when she's back on Monday about flying in a fossil-fueled jet, by the way, about Wi-Fi at 35,000. We can do these things. I can get onto a flight from Columbia to Dallas or from Columbia to Chicago. I can plug my phone in and charge it. I can get on and do the internet. But somebody's going to hear that. Did you hear what the vice president said? These electric buses come out. You can charge your phone. You can charge your phone in your gasoline-powered car right now. Wow.
Your 10-year-old gasoline-powered car.
My 17-year-old gasoline. I've had a gasoline-powered car almost as old as producer Hannah this morning. Coming up, Cousin Andy is going to be here. He hosts an afternoon show on our sports station, KTGR. He's got some interesting stories from the Super Bowl and what happens when you're doing an internet search. You know, like texts, like you might tell somebody, hey, that was a great pick, P-I-C, and you mess up the letters and you end up sending something. Whoops, I didn't mean to send that. But what happens when you're doing an internet search? Internet searches, kind of as it relates to the Super Bowl, internet searches for this thing went up markedly last week. Because we got sausage fingers and we don't always type out so well. What is it? That's coming up at 8:10. Then at 8:35, winners and losers of the week. By the way, Fox, I'm guessing, is going to be covering this. Just getting word, apparently Air Force has launched an unarmed Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile test from California into the Pacific.
what is happening.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
They have done it. Chiefs are Super Bowl champions here in Miami.
You gotta fight and play it right to Lombardi.
Okay, so it was from a couple of years ago. It was on a Monday morning after the Chiefs had beaten the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl. But hey, why not? Patrick Mahomes wins the NFL's MVP award yesterday. The last quarterback, Marsh, who was the last dude to win an MVP or win the Super Bowl after being named the NFL's MVP?
The Rams' Kurt Warner.
How about this? Let me see if I can stump you with this one. Who's the who's the career scoring leader for the Chiefs?
That's easy.
Okay.
Nick Lowry.
Oh, we always forget about the kicker, don't we?
That's right. Number 2 on the list, Jan Stenerud from the Lenny Dawson era. Number 3 on the list, I guarantee, is Harrison Butker.
How about that? Man, and Jan Stenerud reminds me of the day. Remember when the kickers, they didn't have a face mask? They had that one bar right across their face.
Quarterbacks, too.
Yeah, the quarterbacks. I miss that stuff. Coming up just a couple of minutes from now, Andy Humphrey hosts an afternoon sports show on our sports station, KTGR. He's got to be joining us. A couple of interesting things there. And the one letter that's throwing, and I guess this happens, but more so this week, and I do this a lot. You know, I get to typing, and I miss a letter, especially on an internet search. Well, people have been kind of missing this thing when it comes to internet searches. So internet searches for this thing have like skyrocketed this week. We have that. I do want to mention this really quick. According to Fox News and various news outlets, apparently the U.S. Air Force launched an unarmed Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile test from California in a show of nuclear readiness. This happened last night, so this would have been right about midnight our time. This happened at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. They announced
watched many of those as a kid.
Yeah. It was routine activity. But I agree with listener Sandy, who says it reminds me of this. I remember one time when I was in high school and I got my rear end kicked by some dude, and then he left. He walked away, and then later it was like, yeah, that's what you get. That's me. This dude just kicked my, and I'm like, look at me, man. I told him. That's what the United States. That's what Joe is doing here. We got embarrassed on a worldwide level by not only not taking action on the Chinese balloon, but then saying in the State of the Union address, and look at what we did to China. That's the high school me that got my butt kicked. Now it's gone, and now trying to flex your muscles. It's crazy.
You know, it is interesting, and that is something we're going to continue to watch, because I know Blaine Luetkemeyer feels very strongly about it as well. You were talking about the Super Bowl a few moments ago and some other things, and there's a piece of news that has come out that has not gotten a whole lot of coverage that I think is huge for people in Missouri and specifically St. Louis. But Don Coryell, who coached Jim Hart and the Cardiac Cardinals, has been elected into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This took way too long. For young fans, they think all of a sudden now people have always thrown the football. He started that. It was the air raid, basically, offense, and it was him that did it. He should have been in a long time ago. Jim Hart should be in the Hall of Fame as well. And Dan Fouts, to his credit, Dan Fouts and Roger Staubach both said for a long time Coryell should be in. But for you and I are the same age, and of course John will remember it, when the Cardinals would play the Cowboys at Busch Stadium, there was nothing bigger than those games. I mean, it was the fans showed up, and it was just a true treat to see them. And he had a coach named Joe Gibbs, a coach with him, who was interviewed for the Mizzou job before Warren Powers got it. So his coach,
the guy I think about from that era, wide receiver, Mel Gray.
Mel Gray, and also Terry Metcalf.
Yeah.
O.J. Anderson.
Yeah, he came in 79. He would have just missed Coryell but he was right there. But incredible.
And
it was
Deerdorf.
a great. Deerdorf was there, and Conrad Dobler, and just a lot of it. Mel Gray at Mizzou, but unfortunately for Coryell, he's dead. He was 85 years old, and his family will get to enjoy it, but he's in heaven enjoying it. It's a shame. I always have said, elect these people when they're still alive. That's my opinion.
By the way, former Mizzou star Nick Bolton, Chiefs captain for the Super Bowl, coming up on Sunday. Welcome to the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, producer Hannah. My name is Branden Rathert, 8:35. We're picking winners and losers of the week. Get your nominations into us now. Well, you don't even have to nominate them. You pick them. The more localer, the more betterer. I want to bring in Cousin Andy. Andy Humphrey hosts a sports show on KTGR afternoons 4 to 6, and all around delightful dude. Incidentally, he's got some interesting stories as it relates to the Super Bowl. But Andy, newly married, going to be a papa soon too, which I think is just amazing. And Andy, I want to see how you guys are doing it. We're talking about, Hannah brought this up: wedding showers, baby showers. Why is it dudes don't go to the wedding shower? But even more importantly, how come dudes don't go to baby showers? And Hannah, I think, brings up a really good point. I'm just as much at fault as she is. I should be at this thing, too. How are you and your wife handling this?
I mean, at least for now, I think I'm invited to all the baby showers. They might be hiding something from me. I don't know. I will say I was not invited to one of the wedding showers that we had. Well, actually, two of them. I think I only went to one. So, I mean, it's interesting. I do think the baby showers should be more involved with both partners in the couple. So I do think that makes a lot more sense because they're both in it together, and honestly, it should be that way for the wedding shower. But I know sometimes they call it the bridal shower, so they'll go with her a little bit more. But I mean, yeah, I as far as I know, I'm not getting jilted out of one of these baby showers that we have coming up.
That's what I would say. Baby, I was there for the conception. I want to be there for the party, too. Andy Humphrey hosts sports show weekday afternoons 4 to 6 on our sports station, KTGR. One or two things you're finding most interesting as we get into the Super Bowl weekend?
I mean, it's going to be a pretty evenly matched game. I can't really remember the last time we had a Super Bowl where so many folks, it's about 50-50 when you take a straw poll of who you think's going to win in the national, sphere when it comes to the talking heads and who they think has the edge over the other. I don't think either team has a very clear edge over the other. They're both got really great quarterbacks that were both up for the MVP award last night. Of course, Patrick Mahomes won it. So you have a marquee quarterback matchup. You have a couple of defenses that, the Eagles' defense has been phenomenal all season long. The Chiefs have had some really good plays. They've had some good moments. They've just had a lot of youth that needed to catch up to playing the speed of the NFL. And then, the wide receivers on either side have really stepped up their game too. So I just think that if the Chiefs are better at something, the Eagles have something to counteract it. And then you just wonder how each edge is going to be exploited in a game like this. And that's why folks are kind of going back and forth on who they're actually backing here.
I'm wondering, too, with Patrick Mahomes and the timing of the NFL awards being named MVP, and the guy who came in second is going to be on the other side, Jalen Hurts there. But I'm trying to liken it like this. Let's say you and I are up for a Missouri State Broadcasters Award for Best Show. And let's say you win. And then a couple days later, you and I got to get together. And I'm wondering, if I'm Jalen Hurts, if I didn't win the NFL MVP, if you won for Show of the Year, which, by the way, Andy has won that award. That's a real thing. I'm wondering, does that mean, have I already rolled over a little bit? Like, man, I've been bettered by Andy Humphrey. Or is that making me try harder, going, you know what? Okay, you won that award, but I'm going to win the real thing. What do you think?
I mean, it could be something that Jalen Hurts is thinking about, I'm sure. The thing is, you don't have to – when you get to this stage, especially for an NFL player like Jalen Hurts, who's had to overcome a ton of adversity, and there have been a lot of folks that have doubted him along the way. For him, I think he's kind of used to this. He's like, oh, well, of course I didn't get, MVP award. This is a guy that also finished second in the Heisman voting when he was just coming out of college too. So I mean, it's not the first time that he just missed out on an award like that. And the other thing is that, sure, it can give you extra motivation. It probably does give Jalen Hurts a little bit of extra motivation. I think he was motivated enough, though. I mean, it's the Super Bowl. Everybody is just as motivated to make sure that they get their job done, whether they're winning awards or not. I mean, it's almost funny to see how these types of players treat that award show because, again, it's interesting timing. It's right before the championship game, and all these players are trying to focus on their individual jobs and what they're doing, and then all of a sudden they have to worry about who's winning an award or not. So they try to block that out as much as possible. So, I mean, there's an argument that Jalen Hurts doesn't care. He's motivated enough anyway to do well in the Super Bowl and to win a championship.
Which, incidentally, is always my take when I don't win an award. I don't care. I really didn't want to be up for it anyway on a person.
It was rigged.
Right. Well, I'm just like, I don't care. And to me, the award, it doesn't mean anything. And if that's Jalen's thing, might be interesting mindset. Also, this, before we let you go, I'm not a big fan of First, but I do think it is worth noting. It's going to be an all-women crew who are going to be performing this year's flyover at the Super Bowl. That's something we are going to be seeing. I think the other thing that I'm really interested in is the Super Bowl airs on Fox. They're going to be airing a commercial for Gutfield. Greg Gutfield has a late-night talk show on the Fox News channel, and it's like Kimmel and Colbert, but it's funny, and he's getting better ratings, actually. And what's remarkable about that, he's on a cable outlet. But Fox, which really has little relation to Fox News channel, Fox is going to be, they're airing commercials for Gutfeld's late night show. And I think that's important because you're going to have 100 million people watching the game and going, oh, what's this Gutfeld show about? And they'll be able to go and maybe they'll watch it and kind of see things from a different point of view, especially a younger generation. And final thought before I let you go, Andy, one of our listeners, as we were talking about bridal showers, wedding showers, I want you to take this little piece of info to your wife, and then next time we see each other, I want to know what your reaction is. Or what her reaction was. But apparently, I don't know if it's true or not, but bridal showers used to be the opportunity for grown married women to teach and fill in the new bride on how to be a good wife. They tell the secrets. That is why men have not been invited to bridal showers, because it's married women telling a new bride-to-be how to be a good wife. Drop that piece of history on your wife and let us know how it goes, okay?
I'm a little bit scared now to do this. I mean, all right, sure, if you say so, but yeah, I mean, the info probably does check out. I mean, that one bridal shower that I was not invited to, they allowed me to come in afterwards and, load up all the gifts and do all the heavy lifting. So that's how it worked out.
That's right. Men, we do stereotypically still have a role at bridal showers. Andy Humphrey, afternoon host on our sports station, KTGR. Always appreciate when you come and hang out with us, bud.
All right, thanks.
Coming up a few minutes from now, Morning Bell, business news, a little twist only. Stephanie Bell, who's back on Monday, a little twist only she can give you. We could do new guidelines or tipping, or do you want to hear the amount of fraud when it relates to that? As it relates to ARPA money? Stunning. Doing that 5. Good morning, 8:26 time for the Morning Bell. Business news with a little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you. She's back here on Monday. Stocks opening up lower this morning, and I don't know where. There's a couple of things here, and I want to start with here because as much as we like to say, you never tell a loved one I told you so. It's just not something that you do. But, and this doesn't relate to a loved one. When we were talking about COVID unemployment claims during the government pandemic that started in 2020, and they said we're gonna hand out all this money and it's gonna be easy to get, and there was a lot of concern, and rightfully so, and we're seeing it happening now. Told you so. About the amount of fraud, as easy as they were making it, because, and again, you go back to. This was not a COVID pandemic. This was a pandemic of the government. We got to do this. We're going to take away your freedom of choice. Here's the info. And yeah, this stuff could be bad for you, but we're going to take away your right to make your own choices. We saw it locally, especially in the city of Columbia, and what those people did to businesses, government officials. Incredibly disheartening. So it was a pandemic of the government. It was not a COVID pandemic. The government ruined this stuff. Oh, let's take some money and throw some money at the problem that we created. And there was a bunch of us smart people that are going, as easily and as quickly as you're doing this, you're going to waste a whole lot of my taxpayer dollars, by the way, because of fraud and all that. Payoff, Feds wasted almost $200 billion with a B, almost $200 billion on fake claims, hundreds of $billions in emergency unemployment benefits paid out during the pandemic, lost to fraudsters. And we've seen, even besides the unemployment stuff, John, we've seen some pretty significant stories locally about
guy out of Eldon.
Yeah. We've seen it all over the place. There was a guy, I think, in Callaway County earlier this week. And apparently the ease with which these people stole your taxpayer dollars after a lot of us said, hey, wait a minute, you're making this awfully easy for fraud to be committed. It was a Kingdom City business owner this week pled guilty to $673,000 in CARES Act fraud. And I bring this up because these are we warn, say this is going to happen, and progressive, don't worry, it's not going to happen. It happened. It is happening. And I liken it to education. People say, well, if you do this, this is going to happen. No, that won't happen in education. It is. It really is happening. So if you're a new listener to talk radio, you're a regretful Biden voter, or you're a regretful if you voted for any Democrat and you're regretful about it, we welcome you here. And that's what we try to do, explain how these things work. So I want you to know these aren't, I think the phrase they like to use, these aren't conservative talking points. These are real things. And we see that happening right now. By the way, I want to let you know, Como Man Show, big annual event coming up Saturday, March 11th, brought to you by the Missouri Department of Corrections, Doolittle Trailers. Some of the folks helping us out this year. Great time. If you want to go, get down to our websites, kwos.com, 939theeagle.com. Straight ahead, we are picking winners and losers of the week. Who should be on that list? Text us, 874-9390.
I think just local news is like the most
Here's a big old serving of leftovers. Enjoy.
One of the things that skyrocketed this week when it comes to internet searches, and apparently this is a thing every year, but this year even more so than usual, and you probably get this. Sometimes, when you're typing stuff, you mistype something. I do it especially in texts where I might say, hey, that was a nice pic. Thanks. Somebody sends me a picture. I'm like, nice pic. And if I misspell the pic, I get a letter wrong, the text comes out way wrong, man.
Well, and here in the studio, you and I kind of have on the TV screens, it's like a instant messaging system, right? And when you try to type while you're also doing a radio show, it's like a foreign language. I have to sit here and try to decipher what the hell you're trying to tell me.
And you're very good at it. Hannah, producer Hannah and I, simpatico, man.
Sometimes, though, I have to look at you and go, I have no idea what that said. Try again.
What does ZHREANZ spell?
Rathert.
Yeah, that's exactly what it spells. One of the things I wanted to mention, internet searches for this skyrocketed this week because of typos. Superb owl.
Awesome.
Who? Yeah, superb owl. Leftovers. I've got just some more winners and losers, I think. Actually, I've got a couple of winners before we get into Gary Nolan's show. Anything for leftovers, Marsh?
Yes, your St. Louis Blues hockey sweater with the big 91 on the back of it just became a collector's item because the Blues have traded Vladdy Tarasenko and Nico Mikula to the Rangers.
Yeah, and that was
Tarasenko?
Yeah, Vladimir Tarasenko going. And what's really key about that is even the casual hockey fans several years ago all of a sudden became hockey fans because the St. Louis Blues, of course, winning their first ever
cup.
Yeah, the cup, and Vladimir Tarasenko, kind of one of the final holdovers from that era. I want to I'm going to nominate a relative of mine for winner of the week. But my other winner of the week, children of the 70s and 80s, for not canceling Mr. Rogers.
Boys are boys from the beginning. If you were born a boy, you stay a boy. Girls are girls right from the start. If you were born a girl, you stay a girl.
Can you imagine, on public TV no less, if that were to happen today?
Unless you're an AAU swimmer, and they'll get to that later.
Yeah. So kudos. If you're a child of the 70s or 80s, I am calling you a winner of the week for not canceling Mr. Rogers back in the day. And I also want to nominate, what do they say as a point of privilege? This isn't a point of privilege. It happens to be a relative, but he's a young kid. He's 20 years old, and he goes to a local college. It's not Mizzou. But in fairness, because the story I'm about to tell you is pretty stark, and so I don't want to mention the college. I feel like I'd be calling them out, but these things we hear about, this stuff is real when it comes to this disgusting wokeness on a lot of campuses. He's 20 years old, having lunch with him, and freshman. He's from Silex, Missouri. His kid couldn't be more buried from any suburban area than Silex, Missouri. Farm kid. One of the first classes he has to take. By the way, a military officer candidate's already done his basic training. Super kid. One of the things he has to take is a sexual ethics class. Basically, is what they do is they teach you about pronouns. What they don't teach is how BS it is, and it's a lie. It's like here on the show, I joke, I want to be identified as the boss, but nobody calls me the boss. You know why? Because I'm not the boss. This was so foreign to my nephew. Anyhow, when it came time for finals last month or back in December, they deducted points from his test because he refused to put his pronoun down. He says, I'm Donovan. You know who the hell I am. You know I'm a dude. But then it gets even better. As his mom is law enforcement, he's military. Both of his parents are veterans. His grandfather, his grandmother, veterans. And he's got a flag hanging in the windowsill of his dorm so everybody can see it. It's a United States flag with back the blue and back the military. He gets a knock in his dorm room. It's security, and they ask him to step outside. He says, what's the problem? I said, we're going to need you to take your flag down. He said, how come? I said, because it's bothering students. And he said, my support of the military, my support of the country, my support of law enforcement is bothering students. They said, yes. He says, I'm not taking it down. called to the president's office, the president of this school, and here's what the president told him. Said, you need to take it down. And my nephew said, I'm not doing it. And he asked why. I asked for a good explanation. The president of this school, who I imagine makes a lot of money, could not give an honest, truthful answer. And my nephew